Hi, Dean Guthrie.
Hi.
So, you recently wrote about institutional innovation in China, and the Agricultural Bank of China just announced recently that it completed its largest IPO in history. So tell us a little bit about why that's important.
Yeah, this is actually a topic that has been of great interest to me throughout most of my academic career. I've spent a lot of time writing about the fact that the story about economic development in China is not just a story about the fact that China had a deep, cheap labor pool and it was able to basically export its way into the top-tier economies. That is not the story of China. That's one piece of the story. But the more interesting story is about the fact that the government in China has been incredibly innovative with how to design new types of institutional systems. And so the Agricultural Bank of China is one example of this, but here again, people get caught up in the idea, well, this is a state-backed organization, and so it's really not, it's apples to oranges in terms of comparing it with what other IPOs around the world is. But my point is, in the work that I do, and the best place to read about this probably is in the China and Globalization books, is that this is truly institutional innovation on a level where China is experimenting with different types of structures and systems that are not caught in a debate over public versus private. Really, the interesting thing in China is not the question of who owns what. It's the question of how do you design the best incentive systems. So take, for example, General Motors. General Motors is a privately held company, but incredibly inefficient, like many of the state-owned enterprises of many economies around the world in planned economy systems. Right? So it doesn't matter if it's state-owned or private, you can have inefficiency and lethargy in both cases. Take, for example, another organization like PetroChina, which is the most efficient energy company in the world. Largely state-owned. People code it as not state-owned anymore because it's actually a publicly traded firm on many stock exchanges, but 80% of the stock is still owned by the government. And it's incredibly efficient. It is hands down, by every metric you can come up with, the most efficient energy company in the world. Take another example. My favorite story in China right now is a place called Suzhou. The Suzhou Industrial Park is a place that is one of the most dramatic economic development stories in the world. It's unbelievable to see what's actually going on there. But how China actually came to that system is through a hybrid structure in which the government worked together with the Singaporean government. They attracted foreign capital. It became the #1 destination for foreign direct investment in all of China recently. And then that entire state economic development system is being prepared for IPO itself. So you have this public-private partnership, the raising of capital, and it's just a really dramatic, interesting change. And so what I think we need to take from China is really the lesson of how to actually innovate around new types of institutional systems.